I don't know if you've ever seen a movie that you hated so much you felt you had to rewrite it from the beginning. But in the unlikely event you have, I doubt you actually did. But I did after I saw Star Wars The Last Jedi. It took me about 3 months, and I was fueled purely on rage and spite. And I think still, this glorified fanfiction is way better than the trash that Rian Johnson put on screen and I paid money for. So I'm going to try to explain to you why my story is a much better version of The Last Jedi. And I'm not saying I'm a better writer than Rian Johnson. Okay, I am. I'm a better writer than Rian Johnson. And that's not me having an ego. That's just me saying Rian Johnson is a bad writer. Okay? So here we go. We're going to talk about the characters, mainly, and I'm going to compare and contrast them. So, Luke, in The Last Jedi, basically he's a grumpy old fart who likes his alien space milk. So, Luke Skywalker, I found, if you didn't catch that, I found him very disappointing in this movie. So in my version, he is a bit reluctant to train Rey, you know, because I think that's a valid, it's a valid point for his character. But the reason I have it is that because he's cut off from the Force. It's not like, oh, I can't use the Force, and then they never address it in the movie again. No, he's cut off from the Force. Ever since Kylo did what he did, Luke has found that he can't use the Force. And because of that reason, he doesn't feel like he's of any value to anyone anymore. And Rey tries to break through that shell and get him to say, hey, I understand that, but I also don't have any teacher, and I need someone to show me how to be a Jedi, because she doesn't know how to be a Jedi without any training or without anyone to show her the way. So Rey's a bit of a nothing character in the actual movie. They might trick you into thinking that she's a character because she wants to find her dead parents, but it's not really a personality, that's just a motivation. She had something close to a character in The Force Awakens, but they basically got rid of all of that in The Last Jedi. Now she's a completely overpowered, go-getter lady that don't need no Jedi man to show her how to use the Force. She's gonna fight, out force pull Kylo Ren or whatever she did, tore the lightsaber in half. It's not important. She's a nothing character. There's nothing to her. So I basically just had to make it all up. I had to make up an entire character for Rey. Because Rian Johnson wouldn't do it. So she does want to find out who her parents are. But mainly she's sort of given up on that to a certain degree. She doesn't really think she's going to find out. And the reason she wants to learn the Force so bad is because she feels like it gives her a purpose. Because she feels like she's been abandoned. That's why it's so important to her that she learns the Force from Luke Skywalker. Because it gives her a reason, it validates her own existence. Okay? Now that's something I think people can relate to. It's an insecurity of hers. And that's why she's so vulnerable to the dark side. Something they touched on in The Last Jedi, but I actually tried to flesh it out, you know? I mean, the dark side's cave actually kind of scary, instead of a freaking house of mirrors. The snap, what is the snapping? I don't know what that is. Why is she snapping? Kylo Ren. We're gonna talk about Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is a character I think they almost did kind of right, and then they completely ruined it in the end. Because the entire movie, he's like, he's feeling guilty. He's feeling like he weak. He's feeling like he doesn't, he can't kill his own mom, even though he killed his father. He's an emotional mess. Rey is trying to turn to the light, and you think in the movie that maybe he'll turn it around. He'll maybe turn on Snoke. And he does. He does turn on Snoke in the movie. But then he just goes right back to being evil.
Our supreme leader is dead. We have no ruler.
The supreme leader is dead.
what was the point of all that? Why did we see all this complexity to his character? Why did we see that he's having doubts, remorse? Why was the point of any of that if he's just gonna go right back to being evil in the end? So I tried to flesh that out even more, his, feelings of doubt. I have a scene where he, lets an mother and her child go when the First Order is attacking the city. I have he's being beaten. Snoke is having him be beaten by the Knights of Ren because he's trying to, make him angry and try to, force him back into the dark side and, make him be, another Darth Vader because Snoke's kind of obsessed with that.
A new Vader.
So we're going to move on to Finn. Now, Finn was kind of my favorite character in The Force Awakens. I thought he had a lot of potential. He's a stormtrooper. That was a good guy. That's so many interesting things you could do. In this movie, they barely even mention he's a stormtrooper. He's running around with Rose and freaking casino and the freaking. Did you know that scene was supposed to be longer? They cut parts out. If you thought that scene was already too long, it could have been longer. So Finn's story is much, much darker in my version. He's dealing with the fact that he has been a stormtrooper all of his life, and now that he's not one, he doesn't know who he is anymore. In fact, that's kind of a theme I kind of try to have with all of these characters, that they don't know who they are anymore now that they've been subject to this change. See, I can do themes too, Rian Johnson. Just because your movie has a theme doesn't mean it's automatically good. So, Finn's dealing with this. He's dealing with guilt over killing his own fellow former comrades, and he's trying to figure out who he is now, who he's going to be in this resistance, this new force that he's joined. Now, in the movie, Poe is... he's treated like he's reckless. They're like, Leia's like, you can't do this. I'm demoting you. And then Admiral Holdo gets put in charge. And then this whole mutiny thing. And then it's like, oh man, excuse me, this movie gives me indigestion. If Poe had just listened to Admiral Holdo, he would have realized everything was fine. But the problem with that is in the movie, it's treated like she is some kind of a spy, or maybe she doesn't know what she's doing. So the entire movie, when Poe's being reckless, everything he's doing is completely illogical with the information he has. And the information he has is that it seems like Admiral Holdo has no idea what she's doing because she isn't telling anyone on her own crew what her plan is. And she's not trusting any of her officers. It's like the people in the bridge helped Poe with the mutiny, so clearly she didn't tell any of those people either. She doesn't respect anyone below her, and it's treated like she knew what she was doing all along, which is contrary to the evidence we have. Admiral Holdo is not in my story. I completely took her out. I kept the idea of Poe's subplot that he's reckless, only I actually treated it like he was really reckless, and sometimes he even puts the people under him in danger. And throughout the story, Leia chides him for it. She's like, you're going to endanger the people under you. We can't risk losing people because we're not many. This resistance is small. And the first couple times he blows her off, and then she eventually blows up on him. And so basically he's got to, learn from that. He's got to learn not to be so reckless. So I'm going to actually move on to Leia now, because her subplot is very closely intertwined with Poe's. So like I mentioned, she's often found, chiding Poe for being so reckless. But the other side of her story is that Leia's very tired of this. In the actual movie, Leia, she's in a coma for most of it. And I think they forget to mention, but like this movie, from what we can tell, the movie takes place days, if even after The Force Awakens. So to put that in context, her husband just died. She's dealing with the death of Han Solo very much. She I guess cried with Rey, who knew him for like a day, and that was it. That morning over, she loved this man for decades, had a child with him, but I guess she's over it a couple days later. But in my version, she's actually dealing with Han's death, and it's affecting her emotionally. In fact, that's much of the reason why she's getting so mad at Poe for being reckless, because she thinks he's going to get himself killed. And at this point in time, Leia is really tired of seeing people she cares about die. That's a normal reaction when, someone just died and you see someone else that you're afraid is going to have the same thing. Poe and Han, they're not so different. They're both, high-headed pilots. They both, they have a lot of similarities. So she's trying to prevent him from doing the same thing Han did, which was go out and get himself killed. I'm not going to talk about Snoke too much, because mainly that I tried to keep him very threatening and a very ominous presence in the story. But I'm now going to mention a character who does not appear in The Last Jedi at all, but appears in my story, and that is Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I won't be able to compare, him to his, the movie, because he doesn't appear in the movie, but I can compare him a little bit to Hux, because Hux is the commander of the First Order, and Hux is kind of a moron. He lets himself be, I think they call it tooling with him, by Poe in the beginning of the movie, and he basically is just an orderer. He's just like, blow them up! Kill the resistance! And, you never see him use any tactics, and that's probably because he's a general, and generals don't order navies. It's a navy, it's a space navy, but it's still a navy. So, Grand Admiral Thrawn, in my version, comes in after Hux fails Snoke one too many times. So he brings in Thrawn to take the new command of the First Order. I'll mention this now. In my version, instead of the First Order being the overdogs, at least from the start, being the top, the big guy, they're actually very weakened by the end of The Force Awakens when Starkiller Base was destroyed, because they poured a lot of resources in that. They had a lot of their men on there. They had a lot of their, that was the central nervous system of their entire control, and that was destroyed. So now they're hard on resources. They don't got as many ships as they used to. So that's when they bring in Thrawn. And Thrawn, being the genius he is able to turn things back around. He turns things on the Resistance, and he becomes the key reason why the First Order gains back the upper hand against the Resistance. Okay, I've talked about the characters. I told you all about them. And now, I'm not going to run you down through the whole story, because honestly, I don't have time for that. We're just going to talk about the finale. The finale of Star Wars The Last Jedi and my finale. Or the equivalent scene of that, but I'll explain it. So, in Star Wars The Last Jedi, it's been this contrived mess getting there. They did this stupid chase throughout the entire movie. It was all this bullcrap, a bunch of nonsense on Canto Bight, Rey not being trained on an island for almost the entire movie, and then they come down to this planet of salt. This planet of salt. It's very accurate towards how it was feeling at that point in the movie. So, all these things come here, and they go out on these little stupid speeders, and they get shot down, and they run away, and Poe's like, oh, we gotta run, and Finn's like, I'm gonna save the day. It's the one thing of value I can do in this movie. And then Rose comes in and is like, boom! No man saving the day on my watch. You go, girl. And then they all retreat back in, now that they realize they're all gonna die because Rose didn't want her new boyfriend to die. But then, it's Luke Skywalker. He's here to save the day. He's gonna do something cool. He walks out onto that snow. The music is swelling, and you're like, oh yeah, something cool's finally gonna happen. All these things shoot at him. It's like this explosion, and then he looks just like him. And it's like, when I was seeing this movie, I'm like, this movie, it's gonna be awesome finally. Some cool stuff's about to happen. And And then Kylo Ren's like, I'm gonna fight him. Like, oh, Luke was gonna do something more, but okay, what? It was lightsaber battle. All right, finally, these two characters are gonna fight. The old master and his student that turned Sith, and they swing around, and no lightsabers are connecting, and maybe you didn't notice that, and then the bombshell drops. Luke isn't really there. He's calling via space Skype to this location with the Force, and then he's just like, "See you around, kid." See you around, kid. That's the last thing Luke Skywalker ever says in the movie or for his character, because then he's back on the island, and you're like, all right, that was clever. You're like, oh, he duped him. Duped him. All right, what's Luke Skywalker gonna do next? We'll get to see him do awesome stuff the entire next movie. Yeah. He dies. Luke Skywalker dies. He wasn't even in the last movie. He's been a grumpy old fart this entire movie, and now he's not gonna be in the next one. And I could honestly care less what happened after that point, because I was clocked out. That scene was the reason I wrote this fan fiction. So in my version, all the First Order's coming in because they've tracked them to this location. Because Poe's reckless. That was another thing. His actions have consequences. And all this is going down. Rey's like, Luke, you need to come with me and help me save your friends. And Luke's like, no, I can't use the Force anymore. You go. It's like a throwback to Empire. It's switching roles. Instead of the mentor telling the student not to go, the student's trying to get the mentor to help her. So Rey goes. Luke has a heartfelt goodbye with Chewbacca and her. They're all at this location. Rey gets there just before the First Order does. She's going to help them fight, but none of them think they're going to survive. They think they're all going to die. It's all hopeless. In my version, creates the resistance base. So all this is happening. All this is culminating. This is what my story's been building towards in a natural way. The resistance, there's this battle, and they retreat into the base. Kind of a little bit similar, but to the movie. And they've got this big old giant, death AT-AT. It's like 3 times taller. I completely made that put out, but I thought it was cool. And it's gonna blow a hole in that door, and then an unidentified X-wing is flying in, and they're like, who is this? Oh, he's hell of a pilot, he's avoiding all the shots, and crash lands just in front of the base, and out walks a fighter. And at this point in the movie, Grand Admiral Thrawn's like, who is that? And Kylo Ren stands up and he's like, if you have any smart decision in your body, you're gonna fire everything you have at that man. And Thrawn's like, why? Who is it? He's like, that is Luke Skywalker. And Thrawn's just like, and all of these, cannons fire at Luke. He just holds a hand up, stops them, stops all the blasts, and then he goes to town. It's just Luke destroying the First Order, because Luke Skywalker is awesome, and he should be. And after that, all the resistance come together, and they go and take the fight to the First Order. And that is the real finale of my story. I will leave for you to find out the rest if you want to read my story. If you've come this far, I like to think that maybe I've convinced you. So thank you for watching this, and good night.